Hello, baseball card fans. This is Rich from thepit.com coming to you with another market report in the ever expanding worldwide of sports cards. So, today we're going to do something a little different. We're actually going to go back to 1957. 1957, of course, the rookie year for Frank Robinson with the Cincinnati Reds. Frank Robinson, a very underrated player in his day, of course, also well known later as a manager. And so Frank Robinson, his rookie card is among when it comes to vintage cards, his rookie card is actually still pretty affordable. So uh, on the pit right now, we have one of these listed for $369. If you're looking on eBay, you're probably looking to pay a little bit closer to $469. So the pit has a really good deal on this card. Um, so Frank Robinson, of course, you know, just a very prolific slugger. And when it comes to vintage cards, he's probably still one of the best values out there. So the pit actually lists this card in both PSA 6 and PSA 7 grade. Of course, the PSA 7 grade is much closer to $1,000, but still, this is a great card. So let's take a look. So the 1957 set, as you can see, there's actually a few notable rookie cards in the set, including Brooks Robinson and Don Drysdale. So let's take a look at the population for this card. So there's 4,277 of this card graded by PSA, with only 26 nines and 318 eights. So when it comes to sevens, there's 685 graded PSA 7 and 1,042 graded 6. So this is a pretty, it's not exactly a rare card. Especially in excellent mint to near mint condition. Um, so, but when you look at just the huge jump between a 6 and a 7, I mean, you go from around 400 to almost 1,000, and you look at the relative population numbers, it's pretty staggering. So, I think it's safe to say that as far as the all-time sluggers are concerned, I mean, if you take a look at Baseball Reference, look at these numbers. Look at this. I mean, not only is he a Hall of Famer, two-time MVP, he won the Triple Crown, he won 2 World Series, he won a Gold Glove, a batting title, he was World Series MVP, he was an All-Star MVP, later he was even Manager of the Year. This guy was Rookie of the Year, 14-time All-Star, 107 wins above replacement, 294 career batting average, 2,943 hits, 586 home runs, 1,812 RBIs. And just for good measure, we'll throw in 204 stolen bases. So this guy hit almost 600 home runs, hit nearly 300, and had nearly 3,000 hits and over 1,800 RBIs. I mean, that is just mind-blowing. And his OPS was 154, so 54% better than league average his entire career line. I mean, if you really think about that for a minute, and you look at these prices, I mean, think about that. This guy had almost 600 home runs, 1,800 RBIs, and he was an all-star for the vast majority of his career. I mean, this guy and then he even had a pretty successful managerial career afterwards. So Frank Robinson, just an absolutely, all-time great. And I would personally argue that his card is actually still undervalued. And yeah, I mean, it's not the rarest card. You can find these, popping up here and there. But eventually, these are going to dry up. I mean, it's just there aren't a ton of. There's not really a ton of these out there. There's only 4,200. There's only about 4,300 even graded, and there's only about 1,006s and about 707. So this is not. It's not really from obviously compared to modern cards. This is so. For example, you got a card like you have some of these PSA 10. Like Ronald Acuna, for example. I mean, I think his bat down short print. I think that even in a PSA 9 right now is $500. So for the same price you could get a Ronald Acuna short print, you could get a Frank Robinson rookie card. Like that's pretty mind blowing to me. I mean, obviously, none of us really. I don't think most of us alive even saw Frank Robinson play. I remember him as a manager, of course, but I don't remember him playing. And I think that vintage. I think that vintage kind of suffers from the fact that a lot of people today never saw these guys play. But from just a purely historical standpoint, um, I think his cards are just grossly undervalued, and even Topps, their little blurb on the card, they had mentioned when this was written that it was picking up market momentum, and I would agree that it's probably picking up even more momentum now, especially with baseball being. I mean, supposedly there's going to be a 2020 season as I'm making this, but no one knows what that's going to look like. But the good news is that for people that want to, that are just they want to buy baseball cards, but they don't really want to buy the newer players because they don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Frank Robinson. I mean, these cards are not going to go down in value most likely because, I mean, he's Frank Robinson. He's not going anywhere. So if you've been looking for an alternative investment, if you don't want to drop $500 on an Acuna or, a super like a gold refractor Pete Alonso or whatever, vintage is still a pretty safe bet. I mean, vintage cards have not moved nearly as much as the modern stuff, and I mean that's just understandable. The vintage market usually moves a lot more slowly, but if you're looking for a card that you just want to purchase and hold for a long time, the pit actually has quite a few vintage cards. In fact, just from 1957 Topps, we have a couple of Willie Mays cards. Obviously not a rookie, but still. We have, if you're into football, we have a Bart Starr as well. Don Drysdale, Unitas in football. Yogi Berra we're currently out of, but we do have some Hank Aaron, Whitey Ford, Eddie Matthews, Sandy Koufax, and we do need to get some Brooks Robinsons in. But as you can see, the pit does actually have quite a few of these vintage cards. So if you're a vintage card collector or you've thought about getting into vintage cards, the pit has some really great deals. There's a couple of Clementes. The pit does have a couple of really great deals on these cards. So I just wanted to talk a little about vintage, especially with everything that's been going on in the baseball world recently. If you really want to, go hard in baseball collecting, but you kind of want to, go with something a little bit more nostalgic, I guess, a little more vintage. The pit does have quite a few of these cards, and feel free to make a good offer on these cards. Make an account, make an offer to buy these cards, and we'll consider it. So yeah, so take care, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed our look at the 1957 Topps cards. Happy collecting, everyone.